And we are back. Welcome back, everybody, to this live stream. This time we're here for the qualifying session ahead of the Bahrain Grand Prix, where finally we've got a dry session. Bahrain finally giving us the dry session that we were hoping for after many wet sessions that we've had in the last few races. But I'm once again JW97, and once again I am joined by Dennis Graff.
Terve.
Yep, indeed, and as mentioned, we're finally having a dry session in qualifying. So I might as well ask you, Dennis, who do you believe will be eliminated in the first part of qualifying?
I mean, for Q1, it's a bit straightforward, but I would play it a bit bold against, I would say, both Aston Martins, both Williamses, one Alfa Romeo, and one Ferrari.
Ooh, you're going quite bold there. Okay, I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to say both Williamses, both Aston Martins, one Alfa Romeo, and one McLaren. I think that's what it's going to be, but you never know, of course. We'll have to wait and see how this session sort of develops, really, as we wait for the first cars to go out onto the track. There is some pit activity, as you can see. I think, in fact, it looks like Mercedes are going to try and go out first before. I'm going to presume they're Williams mechanics who are trying to get out there first. And the Mercedes mechanics have beaten them to that. So the Williams mechanics have got to wait for a while because I think there's actually a Renault coming down the pit lane. But just like in practice, it is going to be Amar Khan that is going to be the first on the racetrack, of course. Confirmed that he will be staying at Mercedes for next season after missing out on the second Red Bull seat to George Roque, who will, of course, be staying at Red Bull for next season. So now I'm going to read the predictions in the stream chat whilst Carr prepares for his lap then. So we've got two predictions, three predictions. Xavier has said both Williamses, both Alphas, and both McLarens. He believes that both Aston Martins can make it through into Q2. Farah has said both Williamses, both Aston Martins, one Alfa Romeo, and one McLaren, so the same as me. And Franco has said both Williamses, an Aston, an Alfa, a McLaren, and a Haas. He's actually thinking that a Haas is going to get eliminated in the first part of qualifying. I guess given the pace that Kloss was showing in practice, you can understand why he's kind of gone for that. But Carr is the first one to go out onto the track. He'll be hoping there's no traffic by the time he comes out, but I'd imagine all 22 cars will be out on the racetrack by the time he starts his first flying lap of Q1 now then, as he makes his way down the support pit straight before approaching the long swooping left-hander on the racetrack now then. So through the left-hander will go Amar Khan as he will now make his way towards the final few turns on the racetrack now then. Flat through the right-hander he goes, and now into the final couple of corners will go Amar Khan in the Mercedes as he now makes his way down towards the final couple of corners on the racetrack. We will go now then as he blasts down towards those final two turns. Goes the Brit now then, who of course won the last race at Mexico last week, and now he's hoping to continue that momentum here into Bahrain. Car now then comes down the pit straight, and he's about to start his lap now then in the Mercedes. Across the line will go Amar Khan, and he starts his lap now then. All 22 cars are out on the racetrack, so Car will not have any traffic to worry about. Heading down towards the first corner, which is a hairpin now then. Clip the inside curve as best as possible, and then it's flat through turn 2, although it is very easy to have wheel spin coming out of there, so he might need to lift a few times through there. He's come out of turn 3 and now up towards turn 4 will go Amar Khan in the Mercedes. Through this long swooping right-hander he goes as he now approaches the end of the first sector. Let's see what sector 1 is going to look like for Amar Khan, and it is a 25.564, I think that says, in the first sector in the Mercedes. Or yes, 564. I actually got that correct for once. So anyway, that's the first sector for him. A 25.443 for Lopez, a 25.707 for Perinen, a 26.381 for Willows, a 26.030 for De Rosa, a 25.794 for Chong in the first sector. There's a load of more times coming in that first sector. A 25.598 for Chatfield. So a decent first sector there from the Ferrari driver, despite the fact the Ferrari looked a little bit off in the in practice, of course, as Carr now makes his way. He's always made a bit of a mistake there, I think, going around that left-hander. So a mistake for Amar Khan approaching the end of sector 2 to the 1 minute 3.056. So that will definitely wreck his lap time as a result on this first lap as he now makes his way down towards the final couple of corners. He will go on the racetrack now then as Amar Khan makes his way into the final couple of corners and onto the pit straight. He will now go in the Mercedes. Amar Khan across the line now then. He will go in the Mercedes. What is the benchmarker time going to be as he's now going to cross the line? And it is going to be a 1 minute 27.117 as Lopez goes to the top as expected by over a second. I think that's mainly down to Carr's mistake. Perinen goes into third. In fact, no, it's not over a second. The the screen was a little bit deceiving there. It's actually 0.5 seconds. Willows goes into 4th. De Rosa goes into 4th position himself. Clark then goes into 3rd, gets in front of teammate Perrenin. Chung, meanwhile, goes into 5th place. Griffiths slots behind Willows, as De Rosa is obviously in front of Willows, and a few more cars crossing the line there. Chatfield goes up into 3rd place in the Ferrari. Patel goes into 6th position behind the 2 Renault drivers. DeChelli across the line he goes, and he goes into just in front of Willows. In fact, Valdinger slots behind teammate DeChelli. Klaas across the line, and he goes behind the 2 Alfa Romeo drivers. Felix Sontag goes in front of teammate Griffiths there, as now we go to Evan Byrne. Crosses the line, and he goes into 2nd place, slots behind his rival Franco Lopez. Miklos Gale across the line, he will go in the Alfa Tauri, and he goes behind Andre Verderi, who's actually had a pretty decent first lap himself in the Aston Martin. Jake Galloway across the line, he will go, and he slots behind the 2 Renault drivers. As a result, Michael Mocho goes behind Miklos Gale, and Lap Cupot goes up into 5th. A good effort for him there. George Rote, meanwhile, goes into 6th. He's actually behind David Cupot, so not exactly the best first lap there for George Rote. Johannes Martins slots in front of Kloss there, and they are the first laps done with. But yeah, very interesting first laps with Lopez at the top, only by 100th of a second ahead of Evan Byrne in the end. But yeah, Kloss currently in the drop zone and looking like he's still struggling like he was in practice.
Yeah, unfortunately for him, it wasn't not the best first lap, but of course there are at least still 2 to go for everybody bar 2. As of course 1 driver will have to stay in the pits. But as mentioned, it's very close at the top, with the gap being just under 2/100ths of a second. And yeah, currently the Jelly is in P16.
Yeah, he is indeed, and currently it looks like the Ferraris have upped up their pace after struggling a little bit in practice. Chatfield up in 4th and Galloway up in 9th place, although he is over a second behind Franco Lopez at the moment. Willow's back in the pit lane right now, as he's currently in the drop zone down in 20th position. His teammate De Rosa is currently in 15th, so he's currently in the top 16 threshold, along with Dominic DeChelli, who's looking to get through into Q2 for the first time in his top-class career, as Verderi now back in the pit. So all 22 cars should be making their way back into the pit lane now as we speak now. Then Griffith's currently at the bottom, and he finds himself 9/10ths off of Felix Sontag at the moment. So the pace that he was able to carry in practice might have just disappeared a bit. I'm not sure if he had traffic or not on his first lap. Okay, Yuri believes there was a mistake judging from his in-lap there. So, yeah, maybe there's more time to find yet for Jamie Griffiths. But, yeah, currently, there's a bit of contact there between, I think that's Kloss and Sontag coming into the pit lane there. But, yeah, at the moment, in the drop zone, we have Valdinger, Martins, Kloss, Willows, Sontag, and Griffiths. The 2 Williamses currently on the back row as we speak at the moment. But Lopez at the top by 19,000ths of a second ahead of Evan Byrne at this stage. But we've still got plenty of time left in Q1 to go, as Sontag will be preparing to go out very, very soon, providing his car actually stops, which I think it has done. And the mechanics will come after him after he made that, of course, that little bit of contact he had with Bartosz Kloss coming into the pits there on that occasion, as Lopez obviously at top as mentioned. Chatfield up in 4th, a pretty good effort for him. Cupot currently in 5th place at the moment, a pretty strong first lap for him, but I think there may have been a lot of mistakes and traffic issues on that lap, as Jesus Perinin wastes no time, and he'll be going out onto the racetrack, as now he will come out onto the racetrack in the Renault now then, as he makes his way into the first couple of the corners. He will go now then, as now making his way around turn 3 he will go, as a couple of more cars have gone out onto the track, and the McLaren of De Rosa has just gone out as well, as the Spaniard now then currently in 8th place at the moment, and so far 7th and 8th for the 2 Renaults, so far looking a little bit off at the moment.
At the moment, indeed, but of course it's still Q1. The main goal is to get into the top 16. I mean, for Renault is currently they're taking it a bit easy, and I think saving a bit pace for Q2 and Q3.
Yeah, indeed, and also as mentioned as well by the stream chat, a good first lap for Andre Verderi being up in 11th place. Good effort for him in the Aston Martin.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, I'm surprised that I didn't mention that, but yeah, great lap indeed from Verderi, but there's still a lot of potential for everybody else on the lap, so he should watch his back still.
Yeah, indeed. And given that Armar Carr actually made a mistake on his lap, and yet he's up in third, that suggests to me he could have been a little bit more closer to both Lopez and Byrne as a result of that. But we'll have to wait and see, as he's out on track at the moment. Still a few cars in the pit lane, that being Mocho, Kloss and Sontag. Perinen will be hoping he doesn't get held up by either of them, as he just comes onto the straight and starts his next flying lap. And luckily there's nobody at the pit exit there by the time he heads down towards that first corner, so he should be okay. As a result of that, Mocho has gone out onto the track, so it's either going to be Kloss or Sontag that is going to get left behind on the next laps now. Then, as heading up towards the right-hander now, then we'll go Jesus Perinin, and let's see what his first sector is going to look like compared to his personal best down there. Heading towards the first sector, and he's 1/10 up on his personal best, 1/10 down on Franco Lopez in the first sector now. Then, as he makes his way towards the hairpin now, then as he flicks the car in through the right-hander now, then he will go, as he will now make his way towards the double left-hander on the racetrack now. Then as Kloss comes out onto the racetrack, so it is Sontag that is the one that's going to get left behind on that occasion. Down the support pit straight now, then goes the Spaniard, as he will now flick the car in for the first corner of this support pit straight. A long swooping left-hander goes the Spaniard, as he'll now make his way towards the end of Sector 2 very soon, after he comes around this long swooping right-hander. In towards Sector 2 we go, and he's now 3/10 up, nearly 4/10 up on his personal best, and 4/10 exactly down on Lopez in that middle sector. So let's see where Perinin can go. He's currently in 8th place at the moment in the Renault, as he now makes his way down towards the final couple of corners on the racetrack, through the final turn, and onto the pit straight now. Then we'll go Jesus Perinin in the Renault now, then as Perinin now makes his way onto the pit straight and across the line now. Then will go the Renault driver. Perinin across the line. He goes up into 4th place. A big improvement there for the Spaniard. De Rosa also on an improvement at the moment. Currently in 15th place is the Italian, as De Rosa now then makes his way down the pit straight and across the line. He will go. Goes up into 11th place. A good effort there for him. Here comes Roman Quag in the other Renault. Like his teammate, he's also up on his personal best. Quag across the line goes up into 6th place. So a big improvement there for the Frenchman. Also up in his personal best is Griffiths, as expected. He crosses the line and goes up into 20th place. So that just suggests there was a mistake on his first flying lap. Carr surprisingly doesn't improve despite the fact that he made a mistake on his first flying lap, so that's very interesting there for Carr. P7 for Patel, an improvement there for the Indian driver. Verderi is not up on his personal best. He's now down to 12th as a result of a few improvements that have happened around him, as Verderi now then comes across the line now then in the Aston Martin, and he stays in 12th for the moment. Lopez not up on his personal best, and he stays on a 1 minute 26.5. Chatfield not up on his personal best, he stays in 5th. Chong across the line, she goes up only into 13th place, but an improvement nonetheless. Roke is way off his personal best at the moment. Has he made a mistake somewhere on the racetrack, because he's way off the pace at the moment? And yes, he did. He made a mistake through the double left-hander and clearly pushing very hard. He was up on his personal best in the first sector.
Yeah, indeed. So that's not that good for Rogue, but he's currently in P9, so I think he should be safe. Indeed, as Willows goes to 19th only.
13 for DeChelli. A good effort for him there, though, in the Alfa Romeo, as Galloway and Martins hold each other up. Byrne was actually being held up by Willows there on that occasion. Only 17 for Valdinger. He's still in the drop zone at the moment. Miklos Gal across the line. He will go in the Alfa Tauri. No improvement, and he stays in 15th place at the moment. Mocho up on his personal best. Meanwhile, he's currently just in the cusp of the top 16 threshold at the moment, but he's up on his personal best in the meanwhile. I'd like to know what his teammate is doing, because I think he's only just started his lap. Mocho across the line. He will go in the Haas, and he goes into 10th position. So he gets himself into the top 10 now then, as we now look at Kloss, who's also up on his personal best now then. So let's see what his middle sector is going to look like now then, as he goes around the long swooping right-hander. He will go, and he's way up by 1.4 seconds. That suggests to me maybe his first lap he might have made a mistake on that occasion. He's 5/10 down on Lopez in the middle sector, and he looks like he may be going quicker than Mocho here. So let's see. Kloss in towards the final couple of corners goes the Polish driver, as he now makes his way onto the pit straight now then, and Bartosz Kloss is now going to cross the line in the Haas now then, down the pit straight, and Bartosz Kloss across the line. He will go, and he goes up into 7th place. So a big improvement there for the Polish driver. That pushes Gal now into the drop zone as a result of that, because Kloss was in the drop zone for a brief time, but now it's pushed Gal into that drop zone, and Chung only in the cusp of the top 16 threshold. So as expected, Dennis, quite a lot of improvements at this stage at the moment, but Gal currently in the drop zone.
Yeah, indeed. Gal currently drops down. He definitely needs another lap in here, otherwise he would be out in Q1, which would be a shame. But yeah, currently still in Q2 at the moment, we would have Federi into Jelly. So for them, good effort, but it's still not over yet.
Still not over indeed. Of course, Rope making a mistake on that previous lap there and clearly leaving a lot of lap time left on the table as a result. And so far finding himself down in 10th position. But at the moment, he's still pretty safe, I would imagine. As Sontag is going out now on the racetrack, of course. He obviously stayed in the garage on that particular occasion. But he's now going out on the track as he finds himself down in last and 4/10 off his teammate Jamie Griffiths. So he now comes out onto the racetrack as he looks to try and see if he can get a little bit higher in that Williams. But as said with George Roke, of course, clearly leaving a lot of lap time at the moment.
But I'm still confident that Sontag could improve actually by quite a bit. So there will be, to be honest, I think there will be Williams back row, but I think Sontag will get ahead of Jamie here.
Indeed, but we'll have to see, of course. Quark has just gone out onto the racetrack meanwhile, so there's two cars now then out on track as Sontag makes his way through into the hairpin now then. As he's just preparing to start his next flying lap. Also on the racetrack is Jesus Perrin, so both Renaults have now gone out on track now then as Sontag just goes around the double left-hander now then. Sontag making his way down the support pit straight now then on the racetrack with just over 4 minutes to go in Q1 now then, and so far in the drop zone we have Gow, Valdinger, Martins, Willows, Griffiths and Sontag at this stage now then as Sontag now then making his way through the flat out right hander now then we go as he now makes his way in towards the final couple of corners on the racetrack now then. He flicks the car in for that right hander using a bit of curb on the outside before making his way down towards the final couple of corners. He will go as there's still quite a lot of cars in the pit lane, so there's probably a good chance here that Sontag could get held up. But we'll have to wait and see on that as he comes onto the pit straight now then, and Sontag is about to start. I think this will be his final flying lap because there's only just over 3.5 minutes to go in this session now then. So Sontag across the line, he starts his lap as there is cars coming out on the right hand side here. He could get held up here if he's not careful, breaking down into the first corner, and it looks like he is going to get held up here by the Alfa Romeo in front. Not sure which Alfa Romeo that is. I think it's Dicelli because Valdinger is still in the pit lane, so that was Dicelli that just came out of the pits there just as Sontag came onto the scene there, as now the German will try and use his slipstream to try and recuperate some of that time he lost from having to avoid cream crackering into the back of Dominic Dicelli on that occasion. Sontag now approaching the end of the first sector now then, and as expected he's way off on his personal best in the first sector now then after that hold up he had, and specifically he finds himself, as I've just accidentally unmuted the stream there, but I think he's around about half a second off his personal best in that first sector, judging from what I could see. There's still a few more cars making their way out on track now then, as it looks like there's still 3 cars in the pit lane, I think, or is that 2 cars now? No, it's 2 cars in the pit lane now then. It's going to be one of the Hassers that gets left behind, so whether it's either Mocha or Kloss, we'll have to wait and see as they now make their way down towards the left hand. There goes Felix. Oh, he's getting overtaken now by the Ferrari, so I think that would probably already confirm his elimination. And you talked about how you were confident he was going to get in front of Jamie Griffiths here, Dennis. Well, that one is being put to bed a little bit there. I think it's safe to say. Yeah, as he's 1.1 seconds off his personal best in that middle sector now then. So yeah, this looks like that Sontag is going to be out of qualifying given how much time we've got left on the clock now then. So coming around the final couple of corners goes Felix Sontag in the Williams now then as he makes his way onto the pit straight, and Felix Sontag across the line. He will go now then, he crosses the line now then, and as a result I'm not expecting an improvement, and nope, he stays in 20 seconds, so Sontag is out in Q1 as expected. Quarg is down on his personal best meanwhile in the middle sector with just under 2 minutes to go in this session now then. Quarg making his way into the final couple of corners and onto the pit straight now then. We will go Roman Quarg onto the pit straight and across the line now then. He will go, the Frenchman makes his way across the line, and I'm not expecting an improvement, and nope, he stays in 6th position. Perrin and his teammate also not on an improvement either, as the Spaniard makes his way down the pit straight and across the line now then. He will go Perrin across the line, and he doesn't improve either. Byrne will get one more lap in, as well I think that was Dicelli if I'm not mistaken. No, it was Valdinger, sorry, I do apologise, because Dicelli was in front of Sontag there, as Rahul Patel makes his way onto the pit straight and across the line now then. He will go, and he does not improve. He stays in 8th place, but I think he's safe to go through regardless. Laura Chung, meanwhile, is up on a personal best.
I think she made a mistake.
I think she's made a mistake somewhere. I was just about to bring it up because she was up on a personal best in the first sector, and she's made the same mistake as what George Roke did coming into the double left-hander.
Yep, Chung is in big trouble because I think Gal is maybe on improvement, but let's see. Maybe she could be lucky. But this lap was, with that mistake, was a write-off.
Griffiths goes up to 19th, he's out, but that's a big improvement for the Welshman nonetheless. So look, Chung has got to pray she's done enough to go through into Q2 thanks to that mistake she made. We talked about how that double left-hander could affect lap times around here. Videri doesn't improve. Lopez further improves. He now goes on a 1 minute 26.521 in the Mercedes, now 82 thousandths ahead of Evan Byrne in this session. Now then, here comes Amar Khan, not up on his personal best again, and he remains in third position. De Rosa, no improvement, he stays in, where is he, in 13th place. Willows is up on his personal best. Can he push Chung out of qualifying here? Willows across the line. He will go, and he does do indeed. Chung is out in Q1 as Willows goes up into 14th place. Jake Galloway across the line. He will go in the Ferrari, and no improvement. He stays where he is with GP12. Dicelli doesn't improve. He's still in the cusp of the top 16 threshold. Martin is out. He goes up into 19th only. It's P3 for Chris Chatfield there. Good effort for him in the Ferrari. Miklos Gau across the line. He goes up to 14th. So Dicelli, I think, is out of qualifying. I think, because I think he's already done a lap, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so I think Dicelli is sadly not going to get through into Q2 for the first time in his top class career. Looks like both Alfa Romeos could be knocked out here in Q1 as David Coupart now then making his way down the pit straight now then across the line. He will go. He's currently in 9th place. He should be safe to go through anyway. No improvement. He stays in 9th position. Byrne across the line. He will go, and he stays in 2nd place with that lap. Valdinger, he's down on his personal best, so it looks like we're going to lose both Alfa Romeos in this session. He might have across the line. No improvement. He stays in 20th position as we now look at Mocho is up on his personal best now then, as he now makes his way down the pit straight now then he will go, and Michael Mocho is now going to cross the line in the Haas now then. He makes his way onto the pit straight and across the line now then we will go, and he goes up into 11th position. In fact, I think he stays in 11th, but he improves on his time nonetheless, and I think that's everybody done with as a result there. So that is Q1 done with, as with Lopez at the top with Byrne in 2nd and Chatfield a very impressive 3rd in the Ferrari, and your bottom 6 are Dominic Dicelli, Laura Chung, the biggest shock of all of them, Joantes Martins, Bens Valdinger, Jamie Griffiths and Felix Sontag. So yeah, that's pretty much that. A big shot there for Laura Chung, who's been eliminated in the first part of qualifying despite the fact she had a very strong outing in practice earlier on. Well, we're just going to take a brief pause for the moment while she gets everything prepared for Q2, but in the meantime, guys, you can let us know your predictions on who will be eliminated in the second part of qualifying. But in the meantime, I'm going to mute myself to get the tweet prepared for Twitter, so apologies if I go silent for just a little bit.
Yeah, but I'm still here nonetheless. So first of all, sorry to Laura. I definitely jinxed her in practice when I said she had potential for Q3. Yeah, that was a shot in the bin, I guess. Yeah, indeed. Big oops moment. But anyway, it is what it is. Yeah, but also I would say round of applause to Dominic Dicelli, out qualifying his teammate on only just a second start in the top class, or a second qualifying to be said. So you have done quite a decent job. A shame that he just missed out on Q2. But at least he's starting ahead of his teammate. Also, one thing in Discord, I think you said yesterday that soon the chat for the discussion stream topics will open, I think, after this race. So if you have questions that shall be asked or answered in the discussion stream, do not hesitate to tell them, but don't answer the other questions. Otherwise, you will start a riot.
Okay,
Yeah.
I am I am back, and yeah, so a very shocking exit for Laura Chung there, who after a strong appearance in practice, clearly struggling to get through, and really that mistake costing her in the end.
Yeah, first that. Yeah, but she didn't put the other laps together, so I think, yeah, she completely messed up. But yeah, remember when I said in practice that she had potential for Q3? Well, that backfired completely.
Indeed, and well, that's she's going to have quite a lot of work to do in the race tomorrow. That is for sure. If she wants to get her way up through the field, she's obviously, thankfully, this track is obviously very friendly when it comes to overtakes, unlike what we had in Mexico last time out. So she should be able, unlike what we saw at Mexico, to carve her way through the field. But she'll need to be hopeful that she doesn't get involved in a first lap incident, because it has been known over the last few seasons, of course, that Bahrain can produce first lap collisions, and well. That's something that Laura will need to avoid. I remember a couple of seasons ago, in fact, there was a collision between, I think it was Chris Chatfield and Joseph Willows coming out of turn 3. It was quite a dramatic one coming out of turn 3, in fact.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that first corner has been known for first lap collisions, but we'll have to wait and see if that's going to be the case when we get there tomorrow, of course, for the 57 lap Bahrain Grand Prix, of course. And of course, obviously, if anybody didn't watch practice, of course, there is obviously a good chance that the championship could get decided tomorrow as well. Well, I say a good chance. There is a chance, I should say. The championship could get decided tomorrow. As Franco Lopez comes into this race, this is his first chance he has of trying to wrap up his third World Championship, of course, as he finds himself 35 points in front of Evan Byrne in the Drivers' Championship. So he'll obviously need quite a lot to go in his favour if he wants to win it this week. But you never know, of course. Anything could happen in racing, and it usually does. Byrne really needs a good weekend here at Bahrain in order to still have a very good chance of winning the title going into the last two races of the season at both Argentina and Abu Dhabi, of course. So, yeah, that's pretty much that, really, as we just wait for Q2 to get underway, of course, as obviously Lopez topped Q1 in the end, but obviously we saw that Byrne was able to top practice a little bit earlier on, so maybe there's still some pace left to be explored on his end, really. And of course, George Roque obviously made mistakes on his in Q1 as well, and he'll be hoping that he can do a better Q2 as we get underway for the second part of qualifying now then here for Bahrain. And I might as well ask you, Dennis, who do you believe will be eliminated in the second part of qualifying?
That's always a bit more for a tough decision to make. But I would say definitely Federi. Then, of course, both McLaren. No, wait. I think there's only
But there is two
Kyo left,
McLaren.
right?
Are they both in it?
I really forgot.
I said both are in it, Dennis.
Oh. Oops, I just misheard that. Yeah, so both McLarens. Then I said Federi, Patel. Then I will stick to the Ferrari and the Haas.
Okay, I'm going to say both McLarens, Vaderi. I'm also going to say who? I'm going to say a Ferrari as well. And I'm going to be bold and say both AlphaTauris. Even though they were quite quick in practice, I think they could both get eliminated. I think both Haas's can make it through into Q number 3 as a result. But we will wait and see. As Joseph Willows now is the first car out on the racetrack for Q2, as we now look at the predictions in the stream chat now then. So, Ra has said Vazeri, both McLarens, one Haas, one AlphaTauri, and of course Patel, the only Lamborghini left. But Franco has said Vaderi, both AlphaTauris, a McLaren, a Ferrari, and a Haas. And Xavier Weir said both McLarens, both AlphaTauris, and both Haas's. He's going quite bold with his prediction now then, as the cars make their way out on the track for Q number 2 now then, as well as makes his way down in towards the hairpin now then. On the racetrack we go, as he will now make his way towards the double left-hander now then. On the racetrack now then, as they now make their way through the left-hander now then, using a bit of curb on the inside now then, as Willows makes his way down towards the support pit straight now then we go, as he will be starting his lap very, very soon, along with everybody else, of course, as I'm just wondering if all 16 are out on track. No, there's still 3 more cars that need to come out on track now then, 14, so 2 more left now to go out onto the track, as Willows makes his way into the final couple of the corners, as now he's about to start very soon now then, as just one more car needing to go out onto the track now then, as now they're all on track, so Willows will get a clean lap in as he now rounds the final couple of corners, and Willows about to start his first flying lap of Q2. Obviously was able to get through into Q2 after a pretty good last lap, which pushed Chung out of qualifying as a result, as Willows now starts his first flying lap of Q2. A clear track in front as he now makes his way in towards the first few turns on the racetrack, through into turn 1, and then into turns 2 and 3 will go Joseph Willows, and the McLaren flicks it in for the left, then through into the right-hander now then we will go, as Willows now then approaches the long swooping right-hander on the track now then. Willows approaches turn 4, around the long swooping right-hander now then we will go, and let's see what Willows' first sector is going to look like now then, into towards the first sector. 25.548 in 948, sorry, in that first sector. Pretty decent first sector there, considering the McLaren is not exactly the strongest qualifier, it's fair to say, as he rounds the hairpin now then on the track. Just looking at everybody else's first sectors, a 25.781 for DeRosa, so DeRosa slightly up on Willows in the first sector, a 25.848 for Chatfield, so Chatfield's actually down on DeRosa in sector 1 there, a 25.961 for Galloway, so Galloway's behind both McLarens in the first sector, a 25.464 for Patel in that first sector, a 26.267 for Videri, so not exactly the best first sector for him that time by, as Willows now approaches the end of sector 2, coming around the long swooping right-hander we go, and he does a 1 minute 3.723 in the middle sector now then, as he now approaches the final corner now then, as he heads down this straight now then. This can be an overtaking zone, of course, as we've seen many times in the race. There's pretty much 4 overtaking zones on this racetrack, so as mentioned earlier in Q1, very overtake friendly around here in Bahrain. So Willows heading on to the pit straight now then. Let's see what the benchmark of time is going to be. Across the line will go Joseph Willows in the McLaren, and he does a 1 minute 27.906. Here comes Chris Chatfield in the Ferrari. Across the line he will go, and he goes into second place, slower than Willows. As a result, DeRosa goes quicker, as I think I just saw that Galloway may have made a little bit of an error, but DeRosa goes quicker by 93 thousandths ahead of Joseph Willows in the end there. Jake Galloway heading his way onto the pit straight. We did see that he was slower than both McLarens in the first 2 sectors. He crosses the line, and he is still slower. He's behind both McLarens, both Ferraris behind both McLarens, and Patel now goes to the top by 0.8 of a second. Videri goes into 6th position. Michael Mocho across the line in the Haas. He crosses the line, goes into 2nd place, slots behind Rahul Patel. Here comes Roman Quagg in the Renault now then. He goes into, well, it looks like he was being held up there by who was that he was getting held up by? I couldn't quite tell. But Perrin, meanwhile, goes into 2nd place. It was Q-Park, so those two are holding each other up on that occasion. Kloss across the line, and he slots behind Quagg in the end there. Then here comes George Roke in the Red Bull now then, and he goes into 3rd position, slots behind both Perrin and Patel. So again, looking a little bit off does George Roke at the moment. Here comes Franco Lopez in the Mercedes. He crosses the line, and he's only in 5th with that first lap, so not exactly a good first lap for Franco Lopez there, as Miklos Gau slots behind DeRosa there, so he gets in between the 2 McLarens on that lap. Evan Byrne now then across the line, he will go in the Red Bull. He crosses the line, and he also goes into 4th place. His car now goes to the top by 0.3 of a second. There, the first lap's done, but yeah, quite a weird first laps, it must be said, with Patel up in 2nd place, really. And, well, Roke, Byrne and Lopez looking a little bit off on their first laps.
Yeah, indeed, but there's still a bit of time to go, but yeah, that was a very impressive laps from Patel, and I would say from Mocho as well, to be ahead of Franco Lopez. But also DeRosa had quite a good lap, but yeah, it's still a bit to go, so yeah, who knows who will be in the top 10 at the end.
Both McLaren's currently in the top 10 at the moment, but we'll have to wait and see. I would expect maybe the second laps, like we saw with Q1 earlier, to possibly be better. But currently in the drop zone, we have Quagg, Kloss, Galloway, Chatfield, Q-Park, and Videri. A quite poor first lap, it must be said, for both Ferraris, Dennis.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, in Q1, they have shown some good potential, but in Q2, same like it was in practice, there's nothing.
Yeah, indeed. And, well, they'll be looking to try and see if the second lap will be any better, because that was not the best first lap for both Chatfield and Galloway. It was not like that both of them had any traffic, so a little bit interesting there. But Carr currently at the top of the 1 minute 26.637 at the moment, 0.3 quicker than Rahul Patel. Out of the top 4 drivers, he was the only one really to set a quick lap.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, he did nail the lap. Also, is not that much faster than Patel was, but it's enough to be at the top.
Yeah, indeed. Whether he can hold that to that, not, I'm not sure because, of course, I would expect Roqueburn and Lopez to have a better second lap, but we'll have to wait and see on that, of course. And you will also say the same for both Quark and Kloss, who are currently in the drop zone. Maybe the two Ferraris as well. We'll have to wait and see. But so far, Videri, the only one over 2 seconds behind Armar Car at this stage of Q2. Whether that ends up being the same for the rest of it, we'll have to wait and see as Gal gets wheeled back into the garage now then, as he'll be preparing to start his next lap very, very soon. Currently in the top 10 threshold at the moment is Gal. His teammate Q-Pop currently in the drop zone at the moment, down in 13th place, 1.7 seconds off of Armar Car at this stage of qualifying now then. So we wait to see who's going out next, and it's going to be the McLaren of De Rosa this time. So not Joseph Willows, it's going to be Kirishima De Rosa this time. That's going to be first to go out onto the track, and it looks like Jake Galloway is going to be second on track, along with Rahul Patel, of course, who is the only Lamborghini left as a result of Chung being eliminated in the first part of qualifying, thanks to a mistake that she made on her final lap at the double left-hander, of course, similar to what George Roque did earlier on in that session. So De Rosa now then making his way towards the long swooping right-hander, as he'll be hoping he can get his McLaren few into Q3. And I think it's safe to say, Dennis, over the last few races, even though McLaren have not had the best car, De Rosa's put in some very good performances.
Yeah, for De Rosa is at the moment a very good season at the last couple of races. Yes, he has shown some good potential that the car on some occasions has. And yeah, he brought him the good points when his teammate was unfortunately unlucky.
Yeah, indeed, and well, he's looking pretty comfortable in 15th place in the Drivers' Championship, and doing everything to ensure that McLaren finish 8th in the Constructors to basically ease the pain of what has been a very frustrating first season with BMW engines, of course, and they'll be hoping for a better season in 2023. But anyway, De Rosa now, they're coming around the final couple of corners. We will go, of course, there's still a little bit of a matter as to who will be De Rosa's teammate next season, whether it will be Joseph Willows still, depending on the situation with that second Mercedes seat, or whether it will be somebody like Nicholas Zorbach, Wojciech Kulizec, maybe even Brandon Jackson, the current reserve driver, or who knows really who's going to get that seat. It's going to be very interesting to see who's going to end up at McLaren next season. Of course, I mentioned Kulizec and Zorbach are currently fighting for the F2 title and will be fighting for the right to become the F2 champion next week at Balcarce. So that will be quite interesting to watch as well as De Rosa makes his way through turns 2 and 3. Luckily, that bit of traffic that was in front was far ahead of him by the time he started that lap, so he shouldn't be able to get affected by both the Red Bull and I think it was the Alpha Tauri that was in front of him there. So De Rosa comes out of the right-hander now then as he approaches the end of the first sector now then, and he's down on his personal best by only by 74 thousandths of a second into sector 1 there, 4 tenths off of car in the first sector as De Rosa now then making his way through into the hairpin now then he will go as he'll now make his way towards the double left-hander, which has caught a couple of people out so far throughout the 2 sessions we had. In qualifying, it's caught out both Roque and Chung so far. And there was actually a Mercedes in front, not a Red Bull. I don't know why I thought it was a Red Bull that was in front. Clearly a different look of a car, it must be said. So now we look at De Rosa, who's just coming towards the long swooping right-hander. Now then, let's see what Sector 2 has in store, because he was only a few hundredths off of his personal best. He's gained a little bit more in Sector 2. He's now only 100th off in Sector 2, so he could pull it back in the last sector, but he's still overall down on his personal best in the middle sector. But again, has been able to gain a little bit in that middle sector, so we'll see if De Rosa can find some more time in the last sector and be able to improve as a result then. So De Rosa, down the pit straight he goes as he makes his way onto the pit straight, and across the line he will go. Is De Rosa going to be able to improve on his 8th place? Across the line he will go, and he does improve, but he remains in 8th position. He improves on lap time at the moment. Chatfield up on his personal best. He needs to because he's down in the drop zone. Across the line, goes up into 8th, pushes Willows into the drop zone. Patel doesn't improve. He stays in 2nd place. Videri up on his personal best. Meanwhile, in the Aston Martin, currently in the drop zone at the moment as he now makes his way onto the pit straight, and across the line he goes, and he improves, but remains in 16th and still over 2 seconds beyond Armar Car. Roque up on his personal best. Let's see what he's able to do. Can he go quicker than Car? No, he can't. He goes up into 2nd place. Galloway, he's not up on his personal best, surprisingly. He's in the drop zone at the moment, and he stays in 14th. Kupak improves, but still in the drop zone in 15th place. Quark across the line improves, but only into 9th position at the moment. Gal currently in the drop zone. Byrne up on his personal best, meanwhile, in the Red Bull as he now makes his way onto the pit straight, and Evan Byrne is now going to cross the line. Where is he going to go? And he goes to the top by 16 thousandths of a second. A 1 minute 26.621 for Evan Byrne. Michael Mocho is not up on his personal best, and he stays in 6th position for the moment. His teammate Kloss is still in the drop zone at the moment as we speak. Perinen down the pit straight he goes, currently in 5th place. He crosses the line, no improvement, and stays in 5th. Carr is not on an improvement. He's currently in 2nd place at the moment, 16 thousandths off of Evan Byrne now. Then his car will make his way down the pit straight now then, and across the line will go Armar Carr in the Mercedes. Across the line he will go, and he does not improve. He stays in 2nd place. Bartrish Kloss up at his personal best. He goes up into 7th, pushes De Rosa into the drop zone. Lopez up at his personal best. He goes up into 3rd, 68 thousandths, covering the top 3 at the moment. Gal improves, but only into 11th place. He's still in the drop zone at the moment. Quark just in the cusp of the top 10 threshold, and there the second lap's done with. And well, we'll have to wait and see who's going to be able to come out for a 3rd flying lap. I think we'll get a some that'll be going out, but for some drivers that might be it for them in terms of their Q3 prospects.
Indeed. I mean, there will be some who have a final attempt. I think De Rosa may have the final chance, but I think apart from him, it could be over for everyone else.
Indeed, as De Rosa gets wheeled back into the garage, and it looks like both McLarens, unless they get out on track in time before the 1 minute 26 threshold, they might be out of it. 12th and 13th for the 2 McLaren drivers, but given their previous qualifying record, I think they'll be pretty satisfied with that if it were to stay like this. Videri gets wheeled back into the garage in the Aston Martin. Kupok now back in the pits, and he might be out of it because he's in 15th place at the moment, and it really depends really if AlphaTauri can get it quickly turned around and get him back out on track before the 1 minute 26 threshold.
Yeah, indeed. So for Kupok, it's at the moment very disappointing quali with only being P15. But judging by the time, it will be close.
Indeed, we have just under 2.5 minutes to go then in Q2 before the session comes to a close, of course, and then we get into the final part of qualifying. Still Lopez and Gal out there on track. Lopez has just gone in, so we just wait for Gal now, who's just come out of the final turn now then, as you can see on the minimap, and he's now back in the pits, but I think he probably might be running out of time, so it could be a situation where both AlphaTauris could get eliminated in Q2 here, which would be a bit of a shame given the pace they were showing in practice.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, but P11 for Gal would be, I think, not the worst position to start. I mean, there's only one place being away from points tomorrow, but of course in the midfield, especially with the turn 1, that could cause some chaos, as we have seen, for example, in the 2018 GP2 race. Yeah, we don't know what's gonna happen then.
Yeah, indeed, as it looks like Rahul Patel is going to get out there and do one more flying lap before the session comes to a close, so he's going out there. Is anybody else going to join them? There is some movement in the pit lane, as you can see on the mini-map. Are they going to get out in time, though? That's the question. 26, as I had a little bit of a gulp there. As that car has made it to the pit lane exit, but I think they might have left it too late. That was Joseph Willows, so Willows might have left it a little bit late. We'll have to double clarify that, but in terms of everybody else, Gal, De Rosa, Galloway, Kupok and Videri, they are out of it.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not enough time to get one more lap in, and yeah, for them, it's time to settle for their current places.
Yeah, indeed, as Patel now then makes his way around the hairpin now there on the racetrack with just under a minute to go now then before the session comes to a close. Patel is safely through into Q3 anyway, thanks to that brilliant first lap he pulled in that Lamborghini. So obviously the only Lamborghini represented, of course, because Laura Chung is going to be starting all the way down in 18th place for tomorrow's Bahrain Grand Prix after the mistake she made in Q1 down at that double left-hander that Patel just came around. So anyway, as now Patel comes around the left-hander now, then he goes as he'll now make his way towards the long swooping right-hander. Flat out you go now then as he now makes his way into the final couple of corners he goes now then. So through the final couple of corners, making his way down this back straight now then before approaching the final 2 corners on the racetrack now then. So heading down towards the final 2 corners will go Rahul Patel in the Lamborghini through the final turn, and onto the pit straight now then will go the Lamborghini driver as he makes his way onto the pit straight, and Patel now then is about to start his next flying lap now then. Across the line he goes, 5, 4, he crosses the line to start that final flying lap. What about Willows? 3, 2, 1, 0. No, he's left it late, so Willows is out of qualifying. So we have our bottom 6 secure, and Patel, well, his lap may be compromised anyway, because that Renault has just come out in front of him there, coming out of that first corner. So anyways, Patel now then making his way up towards turn 4. We will go on the racetrack now then. In towards turn 4 goes Rahul Patel as he's getting held up by that Renault at this stage. So now heading in towards the end of the first sector now then. And you can tell how much he's lost to him. 4 tenths down on his personal best in sector 1 there. So really this is just getting a running ready for Patel before the session comes to a close. He's getting up close now to the back of that Renault going into the hairpin there. As now the Indian driver will now approach the double left-hander on the racetrack. So through into the first part and then into the second part now. Then we go as he flicks it in through that left-hander as he now makes his way down the back straight now then before approaching that left-hander on the racetrack now then as he's now getting into the slipstream of Roman Quag, as now I think it's Roman Quag or it's Jesus Perinen, it's one of the two. Either way, both Renaults are through anyway, 6th and 10th for both Perinen and Quag. Quag only just getting through into Q3 in the end, and obviously Gal was only able to improve into 11th there, so Quag pretty lucky he didn't get himself into the drop zone as Patel is going to overtake the Renault, and in fact it's actually Jesus Perinen, in fact, not Roman Quag, so actually Patel's former teammate in GP2 with the Univirtuosi days. So Patel now then making his way onto the pit straight now then, and across the line will go the Lamborghini driver. Patel across the line he will go. It's not going to be an improvement either way. He's through anyway, a 127.6, and that is Q2 done with Byrne, Carr, and Lopez, your top 3, and your bottom 6, as a reminder, are Miklos Gal, Kirishima De Rosa, Joseph Willows, Jake Galloway, David Kupak, and Andre Vaderi. So, we're just going to take a brief pause for the moment while Shibi gets everything prepared for Q number 3, but in the meantime, guys, you can let us know your prediction on who you believe will take pole position for tomorrow's Bahrain Grand Prix, but in the meantime, I'm going to mute myself to get the tweet prepared for Twitter, so apologies if I go silent for just a little bit. Okay, I am back, and the tweet is now up on Twitter. So, yeah, it should be quite an interesting Q3 at the moment, because so far both Lopez and Byrne have been trading in terms of who's going to be at the top. But Armar Carr has been showing some pretty good pace as well. But so far, Roka's not really been up there at the moment.
Yeah, in qualifying, he's been a bit off pace in comparison to the other cars in the top teams. But yeah, Q3 The times will be set to zero again, and yeah, who knows what he can do? Maybe he could get the pole, but let's see.
Indeed, and we'll obviously wait to see, of course. Obviously, another 15 minutes to determine who will take pole position for tomorrow's Bahrain Grand Prix. And, well, a decent session for McLaren, it must be said, in Q2. Only just missing out on a Q3 appearance, but I think they'll take 12th and 13th nonetheless. For Jake Galloway, a pretty disappointing qualifying for him, being down in 14th, given that Chris Chatfield was able to get his Ferrari through into Q3.
Yeah, indeed, Galloway will be disappointed, of course. It's his final Bahrain Grand Prix, of course, as this will be his final 3 races. They're starting from P14. It's not that ideal.
Yep, indeed, and he'll, like with Laura Chung, will have a bit to do in the race tomorrow if he wants to get some good haul of points for Ferrari, if they've got any chance of trying to get back if they're able to get back in the hunt for 4th place in the Constructors with Haas, who just happen to also be powered by a Ferrari engine, of course, and will continue to do so next season, along with Sauber, of course, when obviously this is the last 3 races, of course, that the Sauber team will be known as Alfa Romeo. They'll be reverting back to the Sauber name, of course, in 2023, obviously splitting up with Alfa Romeo at the end of this season. And but still retaining the Ferrari engine, of course. Whether they will have Ferrari engines after 2023 and beyond, though, that is going to be another question, of course, because obviously we know that Ferrari have got a very strong partnership with Alfa Romeo, it must be said. So it's obviously something to bear in mind there, really. But yeah, it's going to be quite an interesting one, really, to see what happens with Sauber in the future. But of course, they are retaining Bence Valdinga for next season, and it's just really a question now of who's going to be his teammate. Will it be Rahul Patel? Will it be David Kupak? Will it be Hento Sononomi, who's currently fighting for the F2 title over in for Balcarce next week, along with Nikola Zorbach and Wojtek Kulizet, the 2 drivers who are trying to get the second McLaren seat, should Joseph Willows end up at Mercedes next season. But it should be quite an interesting one. Indeed, really, as we just wait for Q number 3 to happen, of course, just waiting for Yuri to sort everything out for that. And it's just been a little bit of it's been nice, really, to have a pretty dry session for qualifying, it must be said. It's been the last few races. It's been quite a little bit frustrating, I must be said, if you've heard me in the commentary box having wet weather. But finally, we got a little bit of a break from that. Whether that's going to be the case for for Argentina, we'll have to wait and see. I'd imagine it's going to be dry for Abu Dhabi because obviously it's the same region as Bahrain, really. So you should imagine that. But we'll wait to see, of course. I mean, let's not forget back in 2011 that Abu Dhabi did have a wet weather session. So who knows, really?
21 as well.
Yes, indeed. So who knows really what to expect with that one, really. But yeah, it should be quite an interesting session, of course. It will be interesting to see who's going to get pole position for this session, of course, here in Bahrain, as we wait for the final session to happen, of course, as we're just waiting for the stream to come back on for us. Still waiting for that at the moment from Yuri. I think he's still sorting something out as we speak. So okay, fair enough. So a little bit of an issue with CSM at the moment from Yuri, which he's having to sort out at the moment. But yeah, that's pretty much that really. But it should be quite an interesting session, and hopefully we should be in for quite an entertaining final part of qualifying here to determine the grid for tomorrow's Bahrain Grand Prix here at Sakhir. And so we're just waiting for this little issue to sort itself out. And then we can get going with Q number 3 here at Bahrain. But yeah, either way, as we mentioned earlier, it should be quite interesting to see what Galloway and Chung are able to do from 14th and 18th, of course. Obviously, Chung making the mistake in Q1 thanks to that double left-hander, which is why Patel is the only representation for Lamborghini in both Q2 and Q3, it must be said. So a pretty good lap for Patel in Q2 to get himself through into the final part of qualifying. Where he'll end up is going to be another question, but it's definitely one to keep an eye on, especially if they want to try and catch back up to Haas in their battle for 4th in the Constructors' Championship, along with AlphaTauri and Ferrari, of course. So it should be pretty interesting indeed. But yeah, that's pretty much that, really. And so we're just waiting now to get underway. Hopefully the CSM issue sort itself out. And we should be able to get underway really for it. And here
Here
we
we
go
go.
then, as we've now got the stream up on our screen as we are now get underway for the final part of qualifying. So I might as well ask you, Dennis, who do you believe will take pole position for tomorrow's Bahrain Grand Prix?
I think it will be.
You
Well,
just
we're
gone
not
into the
racing
wrong...
at Mexico.
I think he's
Oops.
gone to the wrong race there, has Yuri. I think he forgot to change the location for because there was obviously some issues with CSM a little bit earlier on, and clearly Yuri's just reverted to the wrong place there. So just bear with. But you were saying there, Dennis, who to take pole position?
I was about to say that the pole will be courtesy of Franco Lopez.
I'm going to go opposite and say Evan Byrne for pole position. I think Byrne will grab it in the end. But again, keep an eye on Armar Car. You never know, of course. And also keep an eye on George Rowe, because I know he's been a little bit off. But who knows? Maybe he is saving something for that final part of qualifying. As we now wait for the game to come back on, of course, because Yuri realised he loaded up the wrong track there. At that point, you might have noticed it was the Mexican Grand Prix loading screen. Well, we're not racing at Mexico. We raced there last week. We're racing at Bahrain, of course, for this, as we wait for the screen to come back on for us, and then we can get underway for the final part of qualifying here at Bahrain. And obviously a completely dry session, and who knows really what this qualifying session is going to throw up. Should hopefully be quite an entertaining one regardless, though. I mean, obviously one thing to keep an eye on, of course, is whether there'll be any mistakes going into that double left-hander, of course, that we saw with Chung and Rowe, because that could be the difference, really, especially if it's any of the main guys that make a mistake through into that corner. And no word there from...
Yeah, to be honest, just focusing on a bit different. Sorry. Can you repeat the question again?
I was just about to say one thing that we'll need to keep an eye on, of course, if we finally get the screen back on, is, of course, whether any of the top guys make any mistakes into that double left-hander, because it has caught a couple of people out, and it could really make all the difference if they're fighting for pole position.
Yeah, indeed. It will be very interesting to see what will happen in that corner if everybody keeps it together. But yeah, it will be interesting who will take pole.
Yep, as we're now in the garage getting ready for the final part of qualifying. Of course, Galloway just looking on as a spectator, really, as we're about to get underway for the final part of qualifying here to determine who will take pole position for tomorrow's Bahrain Grand Prix. Currently looking in the cockpit of Bartosz Klos now. Then he's about to go out onto the racetrack unless he gets beaten to the punch as the Haas mechanics come out of their garage now then. So will Klos get out there before everybody else, or will somebody beat him to the punch? Let's see, as the mechanics get ready to send him out on track now then, which they do. So Klos now then out on track he goes, and he'll be the first to go out onto the racetrack for Haas. Of course, both Haas's are through into Q3, so it should hopefully make for quite an interesting final qualifying. So let's have a look then and see everybody's prediction at long last after all the issues that happened there. So anyway, Ra has said that Carr will get pole. Franco Gamba has said that Lopez will get pole. Maggle has said that Byrne will get pole, and so has Chris Chatfield. Xavier Wee has said that Roke will get pole. He believes that he's holding something back to and he might actually grab pole right at the end of the session. We shall wait and see, of course, in this final part of qualifying. As Klos now then through the right and left-hander now then we will go as the Polish driver makes his way down towards the hairpin now then as he flicks the car in through the right-hander he goes, as now Klos will make his way towards the double left-hander on the racetrack now then. As he now makes his way through the left-hander we go, as now we've got 6 cars on track, so still 4 more cars needing to make their way out on the racetrack now then, as Klos will now make his way towards the left-hander now then we go. We're just under 13.5 minutes to go. There's now 7 cars on track. I think it now actually is no, it is 7 cars on track at the moment, so still 3 more cars need to go out there. I think there is still some movement in the pit lane from what you can see on the mini-map on the right-hand side now then, as Klos makes his way in towards the final couple of the corners on the racetrack now then. There are now 9 cars on track, so just 1 more car needs to go out, and all 10 are now out there, so Klos will not get any traffic, of course, on his first flying lap as he makes his way into the final couple of the corners and onto the pit straight now then. He will go as Klos is about to start his first flying lap of Q number 3 now then, as he makes his way down the pit straight, and Klos is going to start his lap around about now then, as he now makes his way down towards the first 3 corners on the racetrack now then as he heads his way into turn 1, through into this hairpin, through the right, and then into the left and right-hander. Will go Bartosz Kloss in the Haas now then through turn 2, and then around turn 3 now then we go, as now Kloss will make his way up towards turn 4, and then he'll approach the end of the first sector very, very soon now then, as Kloss now then comes around that right-hander and now making his way towards the end of sector 1. Let's see what his sector 1 time is going to look like, and it's a 25.807 in that first sector. What is everybody else doing in towards the first sector now then? A 25.674 for Quarg, so Quarg is slightly up on Kloss in the first sector. A 25.787 for Mocho, so Mocho is up on Kloss in that first sector at that point in time now then. So Kloss now then through the double left-hander we go as he makes his way towards the support pit straight now then. A 25.570 for Roke, meanwhile. A 25.419 for Burn, so Burn is slightly up on Roke in sector 1 there then, as Kloss now then makes his way through the left-hander now then we go. A 25.884 for Patel in the first sector as Kloss makes his way towards the end of sector 2. A 1 minute 3.606 for the Polish driver and the Belgian Grand Prix winner as he now makes his way down towards the final 2 corners on the racetrack now then we go now then. Bartosz Kloss heading his way down towards the final couple of corners. He will go, so through the final couple of corners and onto the pit straight now then will go Bartosz Kloss in the Haas now then as he makes his way onto the pit straight, and Bartosz Kloss is now going to cross the line. What is the benchmarker time going to be across the line? And it's going to be a 1 minute 27.853. Here comes Roman Quarg in the Renault. He crosses the line and goes quickest by 0.6 of a second. Michael Mocho across the line. He will go and he slots into second place, gets in front of teammate Kloss. Here comes Byrne, who's up on Quarg in both sectors at the moment, as now Byrne makes his way down the pit straight now then and across the line. He will now go as he now blasts down the pit straight. Byrne should get to the top of the timing screens, but let's see. Byrne across the line and he goes quickest by 0.3. Roke only 5th that time by, and I think he might have made a mistake because I'm pretty sure that he was in front of Byrne on that occasion, and he's made the same mistake as what he did in Q1.
Oh my good lord, George. I mean, he didn't learn from his mistake in Q1 and made it again.
He actually compromised his own teammate there a little bit through into that corner. Byrne had to take avoiding action, so maybe there's some more lap time left to find for Byrne. Who knows, really? But Rahul Patel, across the line he goes, and he goes into 5th place. Franco Lopez is down on Byrne in the middle sector. I just saw that briefly on the graphic down the bottom. He is down on him in that middle sector, but now he approaches the final couple of corners on the racetrack now then, as Franco Lopez comes onto the pit straight and across the line now then will go the championship leader. He will come across the line now then. Where is Lopez going to go? And it's only good enough for 3rd, 6 tenths off, and he's behind Roman Quarg as well. Here comes Amar Khan in the Mercedes. Can he get himself to the top of the timing screens? Khan is on a good lap here across the line, and he goes quickest by 91 thousandths of a second. So Khan now to the top of the timing screens. Here comes Jesus Perinen in the Renault now then, as he now makes his way onto the pit straight, and Perinin now then is going to cross the line now then in the Renault, and he goes into 5th place, locked behind Lopez. Chatfield across the line goes into 9th place, and they are the first laps done. But once again, Dennis, Roke making a mistake on his first lap.
Indeed, it's the same we have seen in Q1. So yeah, not good at all. But what I also mentioned, notice the gap between Carr and Lopez, 3/4 of a second.
Yeah, indeed, and well, Lopez only in 4th place at the moment behind Roman Quarg, but currently Carr is at the top by 91 thousandths of a second. But we did point out as well, Dennis, that when Roke made that mistake, he did kind of compromise his teammate's line a little bit through into that double left-hander, so perhaps there's still some more lap time to find for Evan Byrne.
Yeah, indeed, there's still potential for everybody to find some time, especially for Rogue after the mistake and Byrne after he got compromised. But don't count out Lopez yet. He could still have something up in his sleeves.
Yeah, indeed. Who knows if Lopez is hiding something in the locker room? Who knows, really? As both Hasses get wheeled back into the garage. Currently 6th and 7th for both of them at the moment. I mean, Michael Clark has just put a very bold gamble and put Mocho for pole. He's actually going quite bold on that prediction. I think that's very bold, if we're being totally honest. Because I think he needed some. I think he kind of needed wet conditions for that to happen, really. But yeah. Obviously, we're in Bahrain, of course, and the chances of rain here are quite low. Of course, let's not forget as well that it has rained before in Bahrain. Just remember back to the 2015 race, of course. It was actually a wet race at Bahrain in 2015, which Florian Volker won, of course. So it's not impossible to have rain, but it's usually quite a low percentage when we arrive into the Middle Eastern part of the calendar.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, there's rain every time here because of the name, but I went over that already, so I think dry weather is pretty much standard here.
Kloss is going
It's
back
close
out
to
onto
the
the
track.
Kloss is going back out onto the racetrack now then for Haas, as we have just over 8 minutes to go in this qualifying session to determine who will take pole position for tomorrow's Bahrain Grand Prix here at Sakir, and Kloss wasting no time and getting out on track first once again. Some more moving going on in the pit lane, I just noticed in the background as Roman Quarg makes his way back out onto the racetrack for Renault, as Kloss will now make his way towards turn number 4 on the racetrack. Evan Byrne is also coming out on track for Red Bull, as he's looking to try and see if he can find the time that he lost a little bit when Roke made his mistake just in front of him. Of course, Roke and Byrne will once again be teammates next season, as it was confirmed today that Roke would indeed be staying at Red Bull for next season, leaving Amar Khan, which has left Amar Khan staying at Mercedes for next season. And the question now remaining in terms of who will be Khan's new teammate in 2023 as a result of his current teammate Franco Lopez, who could win the title tomorrow here in Bahrain, leaving to join the returning Toyota team next season. So that's pretty much that, as Barcia Kloss now then making his way towards the left-hander now then on the racetrack as he flicks the car in through that left-hander now then, as Kloss now then comes towards the long swooping right-hander now then we will go, as Kloss finds himself 1.1 seconds off of Amar Khan. Whether he's got some more lap time in him or not, I'm not sure. There's still 3 cars in the pit lane at the moment. Khan, Lopez and Chatfield, so both Mercedes and a Ferrari at the moment, as now Kloss approaches the final couple of corners. He will go now then as he'll make his way onto the pit straight, and Barcia Kloss is about to start his second flying lap. Just Chatfield now left in the pit lane. Kloss will be hoping that Chatfield doesn't come out by the time he gets to that point, and luckily he's passed him before Chatfield reached the pit lane exit there. So Kloss will once again get a clean lap on this occasion as he makes his way down towards the first few turns on the racetrack. Through turn 2 and around turn 3 will go the Polish driver, as he now makes his way towards the long swooping right-hander now then. He will go as the Polish driver flicks the car in through this right-hander now then he goes, as he'll now make his way towards the end of the first sector. Is he up on his personal best? And the answer to that is no. He's only 15 thousandths down, so he could still recover that time into sector 2, but we will wait and see, of course. He is 3 tenths down on Car though in that first sector. That time buys. He now makes his way towards the double left-hander on the racetrack now as he flips the car in for the left-handers. Oh, it looks like he's going a bit wide, and he's made the same error. He's made the same error as what George Roke did, and that's Kloss's second lap down the toilet. Luckily, Quarg was nowhere near him because he could have been impacted by that.
Yeah, fortunately he was that far off, so he couldn't get impeded by Kloss, but his lap isn't that good anyways. He's down on his first sector. Let's see what he does in the middle sector.
In the middle sector, and he's 5 tenths down in that middle sector. So yeah, I don't think Quarg is on the improvement. He's currently up in 3rd place at the moment, is Quarg. So far looking at a pretty good session at the moment. But of course, we still need to keep an eye on whether Lopez and Roke are able to improve. I would imagine that Roke will be improving because of course he made a mistake on his first flying lap, bit similar to what we saw with Kloss a little bit earlier on. But either way, Quarg now then coming down the pit straight and across the line will go the Frenchman. He's got Chris Chatfield right behind him as well. He's trying to get some slipstream. Quarg, no improvement as Chatfield starts his lap. Byrne, he's not on an improvement, and let's see, across the line he goes, and he does not improve, so maybe there wasn't that much time to find. Now this is where Roke of course made his error, and of course he will be up on his middle sector, but he's 4 tenths down on Amar Khan in sector 2 now, then as he now makes his way in towards the final couple of corners on the racetrack now. Then we go, as meanwhile just behind him that's Michael Mocho in the second Haas. He's currently in 6th place, so we'll wait and see what he's going to be able to do. But let's see where Roke can go with. Now he's had a clean lap. It's not exactly been the best lap for George Roke as he now makes his way onto the pit straight, and across the line he will go, and he goes into 4th place, still behind Roman Quarg meanwhile. So Michael Mocho down on his personal best, he crosses the line and he stays in 7th for the time being. The 2 Haas's currently locking out row 4. Here comes Jesus Perinen, who's up on his personal best. He's currently in 6th place, 9 tenths off of Amar Khan. So what can the Spaniard do now then, as Perinen comes onto the pit straight now then, and Jesus Perinen comes across the line now then, and it's only good, and he stays in 6th, but he improves on his personal best. Patel, he improves and goes up into 6th place. A big improvement there for him, as Carr is up again on his personal best. He could be looking at an improvement here. Amar Khan across the line, and he goes even quicker. 1 minute 26.590, but here comes Franco Lopez. Can he beat him to the top of the timing screens? No, he can't.
Nope.
Only good enough for 4th place. Only 4th and 5th for both Lopez and Roke. Chatfield up on his personal best as he just passes Quarg into the final corner. Has that affected him at all in in terms of lap time, because he's currently down in 10th position now then. So let's see if that has affected Chatfield at all on this lap now then. As the Ferrari driver across the line, he goes up to third. A big improvement there for Chris Chatfield, clearly using the slipstream of Quark to good effect. And that is a brilliant lap for Chris Chatfield in the Ferrari.
Yeah, absolutely amazing lap. Where did that come from? From the winner of last season's race? Yeah, insane lap.
Indeed, Chatfield, of course, won here last season, and clearly he loves this racetrack.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, of course, last season, as mentioned, he won, and now it's looking like a start for third place.
Indeed. Now the question is, will anybody go out there for one more flying lap? I would imagine that Kloss will get out there for one more lap after he made that mistake into the double left-hander, of course, although he was down on his personal best in Sector 1, but it was only by 15 thousandths of a second, so we don't know if he was going to be able to recuperate that time back in the second sector or not, so that's obviously something to keep an eye on there. As Mocho comes back into the pit, so far both Hasses are going to be locking out row 5, being down in 9th and 10th positions, but we'll wait and see. Only 5th and 6th so far for Lopez and Rote. They've both looked a little bit off in this session. Yeah,
unfortunately, especially Lopez, after we expected that he would be at least at the front row of the grid, but at the moment he would start from P5.
Bear with Dennis, just talk for a little bit.
Right then, as mentioning Lopez, I think doesn't need to worry about that. He has a strong race car. Near for Rogue. After that mistake, it was a bit of damage limitation. At the moment, he would only start at P6. As we look at Kloss, who is expected to get a final lap in, he's getting beat to the punch by Evan Byrne. So Byrne was very quick, serviced by the mechanics in the pits. So yeah, he gets first out on circuit with almost 2 minutes to go. Let's see who's able to get the final lap in here. Their Byrne's chances for pole are still not done. The Quark is also now on circuit. And, yeah.
There we go. Eventually I got there in the end because for some reason my headphones didn't want to work for me there for some reason, but I'm eventually back.
Yeah, welcome back.
Indeed, but anyway, as Evan Byrne will be able to get one more lap in, he could stop Carr from getting pole position here. Is he going to be the only one to do a lap, Dennis? I'm just checking.
Kloss clearly get a lap in, also Quark, and about the rest I'm not sure.
Okay, so at least 3 people will get one more lap in then before the session comes to an end then. So Evan Byrne now then around these section of corners now then as he comes around the long swooping right-hander now then here as he will prepare to start his final flying lap of Q number 3 as he rounds the final couple of corners on the racetrack now then. Byrne heading his way down towards the final couple of corners he goes as he will have one more chance to try and see if he can snatch pole off of Armar Carr as he comes around the final couple of corners and onto the pit straight now then he will go as Byrne starts his final flying lap. Lopez and Patel are not going to be able to do it, so work to do for Lopez tomorrow. So this is a big chance for Byrne to take a big bite into Lopez's lead in the championship tomorrow, but he could do that if he could try and get pole position. Luckily that Lamborghini came out way in front of him there, so Byrne is not going to get held up by Patel at that point in time. So now Byrne through into turn 3. We will go on the racetrack now then as the Irishman now then comes up towards turn 4 on the racetrack we go now. And let's see what his first sector is going to look like compared to his personal best and also to Armar Carr as well. As we approach the end of the first sector now then, what is Byrne's first sector going to look like? He's 17 thousandths off in the first sector and he's slightly down on his personal best by how many... how much was that by? I couldn't quite see. I think it was in the hundredths, wasn't it? So Byrne could still try and recuperate that into the final 2 sectors. A pretty close first sector there for Evan Byrne. Let's see if he's able to try and recover that in the next 2 sectors. He now makes his way through the left-hander now on the track. 0.007. Thank you very much. 007 there for Byrne there as he now makes his way towards the left-hander now then. On the racetrack we go, and let's see what his middle sector is going to look like as he flicks the car in. Through the left-hander we go, and now approaching the long swooping right-hander. Let's see what his middle sector looks like compared to his personal best this time. And he's 1/10 down on Carr, but he's up on his personal best in the middle sector now then. So at the moment it doesn't look like the Byrne is going to be able to snatch pole here off of Armar Carr unless he can find something in this last sector as he now approaches the final couple of the corners and onto the pit straight now. Then will go Evan Byrne in the Red Bull as he now makes his way down the pit straight and across the line. Will go Evan Byrne. Can he snatch pole off of Armar Carr? He makes his way onto the pit straight and across the line he goes, and he can't do it. He improves but stays in second. Kloss is on the improvement across the line. He will go and he goes up into 7th place. Gets in front of Patel. Quagg across the line. It looks like there's no print for him and he stays in 4th position. Lopez not enough time, and I think that is everybody done with. So for the second race in a row, it is going to be Armar Carr who will take pole position for tomorrow's Bahrain Grand Prix. A brilliant lap indeed, as me and Dennis are now going to mute ourselves and will allow you to enjoy how Armar Carr took pole position for tomorrow's Bahrain Grand Prix. And that is how Armar Carr took pole position for tomorrow's Bahrain Grand Prix. A very, very impressive lap indeed. And the question is, can he make it 2 wins in a row? He's clearly on form after that victory in Mexico, of course. And, of course, he will be staying at Mercedes for next season. So here is your top 10 then for tomorrow. It is Armar Carr on pole position with Evan Byrne alongside him in second. Chris Chatfield, probably man of the driver of the session, it must be said, finishing in 3rd place with Roman Quagg in 4th. Franco Lopez in 5th with George Roque in 6th. Partridge Class is in 7th with Rahul Patel in 8th, Jesus Perrin in 9th, and Michael Mocho completing the top 10. But either way, Dennis, a very, very good qualifying session indeed.
Indeed, it was very exciting from start to finish with, I would say, Car very well deserved on pole. But yeah, tomorrow we'll have 57 laps of racing action and I can't wait for it.
Yep, indeed. Well, there you have it then, guys. That has been it for the qualifying session here at Sakhir. I hope you have enjoyed it. A very, very entertaining session throughout, and hopefully we'll be in for a very, very entertaining race indeed. Of course, if it was to stay like that tomorrow, of course, then the championship would continue on into Balcarce next week. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see how the race unfolds tomorrow in terms of the championship. But there you have it then, guys. That has been it. I hope you have enjoyed it. Of course, there is no F2 this week for anybody wondering. That'll be back next week at Balcarce for the final race of the season, where 3 drivers will fight it out for the title. But that has been it then, guys. I hope you enjoy it. We will see you guys tomorrow at 5 p.m. BST for the race. But until then, guys, that has been it. I hope you have enjoyed it. So thank you all for watching. I've been JW97. He's been Dennis, and we will see you tomorrow at 5 p.m. BST for the 57 lap Bahrain Grand Prix. Till then, take care.